Welcome to Cybersecurity District, the podcast where we interview the most inspiring minds in the cybersecurity industry. Get ready to meet our next guest in the district. Today, we're joined by a very energetic founder who flew in from Berlin to be here with us in the studio in Amsterdam. I'm very grateful for that, and I'm speaking with Julius Muth, the co-founder of Revel8, a company that's tackling one of the fastest growing and most dangerous threats in the cybersecurity space. We're talking about deepfake-driven phishing and modern social engineering attacks. Revel8 helps organizations prepare their workforce for a world where attackers can clone voices, faces, and identities, and use them to manipulate employees at scale. So today we will dive into deepfake exploitation, human vulnerabilities, AI misuse, and how Revel8 is building true deepfake resilience for the modern enterprise. Julius, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lawrence, for that very polite introduction. I'm happy to join your famous podcast.
My pleasure. Thanks for coming all the way over from Berlin, one of my favorite cities in Europe. And for our listeners who might heard of deepfake, I assume most of them have. But I have a feeling maybe some of them don't know the real impact that it's going to have on our industry, but across industries. So could you quickly explain why this is such a serious problem? And also maybe there's a creative or an original way how deepfake has been used lately that you can give an example of?
Yes, for sure. So on one side, I think about maybe 30 years back. And 30 years back, if somebody of the older generation would have seen a really good photograph of the Yeti, they would have very certainly thought the Yeti exists. And of course, over the last decades, we've grown to a maturity in our society that pictures and images can easily be faked. So don't really hold as a verification or validation or authentication method anymore. And I think we are at a very similar stage as back then with the photographs and now with deepfake audio and video, because obviously still many processes rely on human voice or picture or video to actually authenticate themselves. And we all kind of know that it can be faked, but it still happens a lot. And maybe to give you a recent example, so I think the scam that we've seen running hot in this year was really voice phishing to service desk and call centers. Now, of course, we're talking to about large organizations, but what we've really seen is that these call center agents or service desk workers, sometimes they are not even part of the real company, but external workers, and they are never part of or very rarely part of the overall cybersecurity strategy. So what basically the attackers, and there are a couple of groups, famous groups, Shiny Hunter, Scattered Spider, what they exploited was that they basically, by just calling, imitating certain persons, whether it was a technical supplier, whether it was the boss of the call center, whether it was a customer, they basically got these very service-oriented call center agents to perform some actions like updating the software, resetting passwords, and so on for them. And with that, I think almost all large organizations this year had some kind of incidents related to it, and there were a couple of ones which were also, let's say, heavily breached. Marks and Spencer, I can tell, because this is very common knowledge. Even their very famous attack this year, because they announced a £300 million damage or something, that actually happened via voice phish, or the initial access happened via voice phishing through Tata Consultancy. I hope I'm not going to be sued by Tata now, but who was then an external consultancy, but were able to basically perform some action to introduce the ransomware. So this is something that I think is very hot right now. And of course, the same thing is also possible, still a little bit more difficult with video technology as well.
Yeah, because you started together with two other founders.
Mm-hmm.
I understood the three of you came from Celonis, which is one of the most known tech companies here in Europe. They reached unicorn status. What was for you a pivotal moment that you decided, like, hey, we wanna we want to try something on ourselves? And why did you pick this specific topic?
I'll try to answer briefly only here. But I think so. I think actually on one side, right, we are both or all three founders of us. We are not from the cybersecurity industry. We don't have 20 years of experience, but we all come from the software background. So we know that some things can be built in a better way and in a more scalable fashion. But what really was the pivotal moment was so Tom and I, my co-founder, when we were ideating ideas, we normally used a technique of within 1 month after doing our research and putting together a very easy value proposition, we would send out 100 handwritten letters because that was our easiest way to validate our basically the market interest with small firms. And also, I mean, the Netherlands are a little bit more advanced, but in Germany, still fax and letters hold true.
These tech guys that work for a software company, they're going to send out handwritten letters to check their validation.
That's, I know that's counterintuitive, but it worked. And for the cybersecurity part, back then, our mission was really to bring cyber protection to also really, really small businesses. There we realized a huge spike in interest. Normally, from the 100 letters, you maybe get like 1 or 2 basically answers, which then say, yes, it's nice, but maybe later. But for the cybersecurity topic, we then basically had 10 people reaching out, wanting to know more. And one, which is actually our first customer still today, they reached out, and it was a law firm, and they really invited us to the office. And we built a demo together over the weekend. The product, we were still working at Celonis, but then we realized that that only with a little bit of expertise, you would already be the expert in the room. And then that's also when we realized there is definitely also a market opportunity there. But then at the same time, and I think this was from all of the moments, the most pivotal one was the famous deepfake attack happening to the UK firm Arup. So Arup is like an industrial engineering firm. And their CFO at that time, that happened, by the way, in January 24, was deepfaked. And basically 3 finance employees were approached in Hong Kong. One of them actually joined the video conference. And then in an interactive video conference scam, I'm very certain that back then it still happened to face swapping technology, not real deepfake avatars. Got convinced that there was a firm acquired in the Asia Pacific region, and it's highly confidential, of course, and that finance employee should take and wire a couple of prepayments to some related parties. And this person then actually did 15 transactions, 25 million in US dollar were then lost until the whole scam blew up only because the finance guy or the finance employee in Hong Kong told someone he or she was not supposed to tell. So like the scam could have gone on even a little bit longer. And luckily for the world was that the Hong Kong government decided to really publicly investigate and release all details about this case. And I mean, Lawrence, like I'm just let's put you in the position of the cyber criminals back then. If you manage to, with a couple of simple tricks, basically fraud or basically deceive Arup to pay you 25 million in some way, very likely you have tried this with other companies as well, and very likely you have also succeeded with a couple of others. But just most companies obviously don't announce it in such a public fashion. But this was the moment when we realized, okay, now social engineering is at its next level. And this was also then the angle where we say, okay, now it really makes sense not only to do it for small businesses, but to have like a whole new basically category within social engineering and awareness.
Yeah.
Sorry
Amazing.
for the long answer. Yeah.
So no, I love it. Yeah. So the idea came actually, okay, we want to start something ourselves. We're going to test ideas with handwritten letters, yes, and then see, okay, what industries or what technologies are most interesting. Then you came to cybersecurity, and then from cybersecurity, you pivoted further down, and that became deepfakes. Yeah.
Yes. So it was, to be honest, also a little bit by chance. I can tell you, I mean, I was always fascinated by criminal, let's say criminal activities, or I mean, it's a right. So I still think cybercrime, and it's still a crime. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's in some way it's also a form of very pure criminality, right? It's without using violence. If we're not talking critical infrastructure and so on. But I mean, our goal would always be to have another ocean movie filmed, but maybe Ocean 20, but only cybercrime.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes, right, if you see some of these scams and social engineering exploits that are happening, then you are thinking like, oh, this is really genius, you know? And so a little bit of respect is also there for the creative criminal side.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Yeah. If it's very well and sophisticated or creatively done, it's almost hard not to admire. But we also had here on the podcast a CISO from a cancer hospital in the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
There, he also explained that every day they encounter attacks, sometimes even targeted attacks. So on that sense, then you really feel, okay, yeah, that's the most evil and darkest way of criminality as well, if you would still attack places like that. But on the other hand, if I listen to this story about the 25 million, it's very smartly done. I must give some credit almost.
Lawrence, I think also like, right, nation state attackers, if you think about also like back then, Conti, who also attacked all the US hospitals, I think also in Germany, in Dortmund, some guy died because the emergency room didn't work. Yeah. I mean, these things are, of course, really, really crazy and also really tragic. That's why I think also protecting critical infrastructure for us Europeans is super important. But at the same time, I think what most companies are facing is still that, let's say, amateur is wrong, but the more financially driven, right, rather small criminal group type of attacks, and sometimes they are. I can actually share one because it's podcast related. Because we have quite a good monitor of all of our clients. Basically, send us all the attacks they are getting. So we have a very good threat intelligence overview. We got a good one today where it's basically, hey, I'm on a podcast, and please vote my video up, and then because then I will win a prize or something. They impersonate someone you would know. Sometimes they even impersonate some of your colleagues and say like, oh, I'm on a podcast, we need to win this prize. Please enter your credentials here. And then they basically redirect you to a fake login page where they say, oh, but you need to validate your email address, otherwise you can vote infinite times. And then you put your first email, then your password, and then they steal the credentials. So I think that's also quite a That's a nice one. That's currently going around. Yeah.
It's a clever one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a classic also, but yeah.
It's almost more fun to work on the other side. You can be more creative, I guess.
Yes, but sometimes it's also shocking how easy things can be done. Last year also when we did a lot with the voice phishing, we realized how easy it is to spoof a phone number. And obviously that's not allowed, but I mean, we can call you basically from basically the number of your mother, and then also deepfaking the voice, and these are already two authentication methods.
Now it's also for me running this company, Cybersecurity District. It also attracts a lot of cyber professionals, and probably the good guys, but also some of the bad guys. So that's also what I worry about. Like we have more than 120,000 followers. So I think a lot of those folks are very interested about the topic cybersecurity and about the things we're discussing today. I think this is the most modern thing currently happening in this space. So that also will attract people with less good intentions. And I really have to train my team well also. With every new hire, there's always a couple attempts. So just in a couple of days, I know they're going to get messages and they take my WhatsApp photo and they try with a different number. So it's really a thing. Whether you're a big organization or a small organization, this is the new reality.
Yeah.
But I really want to go because there's so much stuff I want to discuss with you. So I will try to get it all in. But currently, you're standing. The three of you did start Revel8. Now, where you're currently at is, I think, a couple months ago, you got even more investment up to a number of 7 million euros now. So that's astonishing for a startup. But what happened in between? So you have to go from how do we pick a name, how do we start, how we divide shares, like what has been the journey so far? the learnings for you?
Mm-hmm. So maybe I can also share, because I was back then in some kind of sales. All three of us met at a company called Celonis. Right, you mentioned this earlier. I mean, maybe let me quickly explain you.
Yeah, please.
Celonis right now, I think it's at 3,500 employees. They were founded by three TU Munich students back then, and basically what they do is it's a Dutch guy who introduced the discipline of process mining, which ultimately starts with just visualizing logs of IT systems, mainly the ERP system, right? So that you know basically what is happening. To give you an example, Coca-Cola in a year approximately pays 600,000 invoices. I'm making these numbers up a little bit. And all of these invoices, once they reach Coca-Cola, they leave, or even already when they are basically created at the supplier, leave certain digital footprints in the ERP system, in different system, payment system, whatsoever. And basically, if you just focus on one invoice, you could basically track via the timestamp in the logs. You can see like, okay, these are the 17 activities that are happening until the invoice is paid. And basically, if you bring them in order, then you can draw like a process line. And now just imagine doing that automatically for all 600,000 invoices. And then you will get something like a very large spaghetti graph, because maybe 500,000 of them go the exact same process because there's nothing going wrong. But the inefficiencies, and also fraud cases, they lie in the outliers. So like the stuff that shouldn't be happening. And just by visualizing this, it's always when paying invoices, there are the 40, 50 same problems that all large companies in the world have. And you can, on this graph, you can easily spot them and then you still need to find a solution for them. Some are technical, some are people, or culture-wise, and so on. But that's basically what Celonis did. And actually, Robert, my co-founder, he was the first software engineer for them. He he actually had to find a deviation of SQL, which he called PQL, Process Query Language, to have these computations at a much faster and better scale. And I think, that of course, like this company grew from, when Robert joined, there were, I don't know, maybe 25, 30 people in total there.
Yeah. I hope he got some shares in the beginning or options.
I hope so too, but he's obviously gonna be making more with ours.
Of course. We don't want to attract the bad people to us. No, but then basically Tom and I joined by accident in Madrid. We were like, I was the first. Tom was also one of the first ones, and then we just grew to 500 people in 2 years. And we saw everything's possible if you just work hard. Celonis had a very good culture back then of hiring very young people, but motivated ones. We had a lot of fun there. That's where we also met Robert. And then in beginning of 2024, I got out first. Tom had a little bit more technical role, so they didn't let him go that quickly. And Robert actually was really funny. We never thought we could get a CTO of this caliber. And we just asked him, do you know a young founding engineer that you could recommend to us? And then he thought for 2 weeks, we thought he had forgotten us. And then he just came back and said, like, could I also join? I know a great guy.
Yeah. And then we said we were, of course, super happy. And he came over. But
this was in 2024, you say, and we record now in December 2025.
Exactly. So basically, Robert joined in October 24. So a little bit more than a year ago. And in 24, we basically experimented a little bit with the MVPs, with different techniques, small customers, and so on. But only when Robert joined, he actually started to build like a scalable infrastructure so that we could also serve enterprises. We did pilots already in 24, but practically we started also this year with very little license revenue. And then within, let's say, the first 6 months, we were able to actually basically serve and win a couple of way larger customer. Then also at the end of the 6 months, so like in June, we won our first DAX customer, who also who planned to and rolled it out to their entire workforce, our solution. And I think that was really nice, but this was also a little bit for us to prove we can do quite a lot of people. And it doesn't matter whether somebody has 50,000 employees or 100,000. It works the same.
But that was really because you have the skills from Celonis that you know how to build something and really scale it and have the infrastructure ready.
This is fully from Robert, because I think, and this is also good, Robert is the oldest one in our founder circle of 3. Robert really, instead of just, being a young motivated guy, just says, okay, we can make this work in 20 seconds. But he takes a step back and says, okay, I know how this could work now, but could this also work for 10 million users? That's our goal, by the way. I think by the end of 28, we want to get to 10 million human firewalls, as we always call it. So we always think, could this also work if we have to do this for 10 million people in, I don't know, a short amount of time?
That's a very good question, I think, to see, okay, what if we would have to double or triple? What would be the first breaking point? So where do we first get in trouble?
Yeah, there are many.
But with this guy, okay. But for me, it's insane. Maybe because you guys are from Celonis, that just like, well, okay, yeah, we know what it's like to scale quick because we work for a unicorn company.
Yeah.
But for me, little humble Lawrence from the Netherlands, going from a company that really started a bit more serious in 2024, and then a year later, serving so many big enterprise customers already, 7 million in revenue. How many people are you currently with?
We are now 20. Yeah, so somewhere between 20 and 30. It grows a little bit. I also lose count when the starting dates are.
Yeah.
But
you never feel like pinching yourself? Like, wow, what a crazy ride we're on.
Lawrence, I enjoy this so much. Like, it's I barely want to sleep because it's so much fun, and also I think that's really cool. And but again, looking at the lavables and so on of this world, I think you always need to just maintain perspective. It can always be better, but it could always be worse. And right now we are just enjoying it. There will be hard times, of course, and problems will arise where we think, oh, this should be technically possible, and then it's not technically possible. I don't know. There will be also economic downtimes when maybe customers say, okay, this is a solution that we don't critically need.
But there's a great product fit. So this is really a big problem. So you are the second guest in this season that really goes deep into deepfake.
Mm-hmm.
So the first was with Marco from Identify Labs, also a super cool company. But they take a really different spectrum. So they are really on the technical part.
Yeah.
I think you guys are more on the educational side, the awareness side. And really, what you say, human firewalls. So also a training component. But most times if I speak about awareness, then people hate it. Like you have to watch those dorky videos and it's part of the onboarding and then everybody forgets.
Yeah.
But what makes your solution so much different that you have such a great anticipation from all these customers all of a sudden?
Lawrence, because anybody that we talk to is technically a user of, or like, can also put themselves in the shoe of an employee. And if you think about it, why do people? So if we talk to a lot of CISOs, they all know that a good cybersecurity culture is important. Is one important piece. It's not the most important, but it's one of the important puzzle pieces in a cybersecurity strategy. And they many of them spend also a little bit of money on that. But what do they currently get? They currently get a bunch of e-learnings that are a little bit more colorful than the other. And people hate it. If you're an engineer and you know how to put in JavaScript the playback speed of the video to 10,000, then you're done faster. Other salespeople who don't know that, go maybe get a coffee in the meantime. The quizzes are too easy anyways and too generic. Why? Because the companies need to get the certifications. It needs to be audit compliant. And there are already some companies that do that better and so on, but we really believe that e-learnings are only the basis, and maybe some users should do that on the onboarding, but it's really about the practical learning. And practical learning should be as relevant as possible. There's also an Austrian guy, Fabian Hable, he's researching like very scientifically how much the context fit affects the success rate of an attack. And he also showed that basically if you just send it to, if you just incorporate a little bit of OSINT information, then basically the attack has a way higher success rate and so on. And we also see that. So what we believe is that instead of doing like these email simulations and so on, we believe in what we call the Spotify playlist of cyber attacks. So, for example, and let me explain to you, let's say you're Lawrence, you're the CEO of a large Dutch company called Bell, not Shell, okay? And you have 100,000 employees. Then basically what you the only thing you guys would have to do is connect your user management system or upload the user information in some way. We automatically categorize them based on their job title. So we give them like tags, Lawrence, podcast host, if we are allowed to enrich that with OSINT information. And then basically for each of these 100,000 users, we create their own playlist of attacks that run throughout the year. So a little bit of nudges. So it's a little bit like a continuous human pen test, if you would say. And the learning moment is only when you fall for it. And there we believe in these teachable moments. So like, for example, if you just experience a deepfake call and you, fail for it, then there will be maximum 60 seconds of learning where we will tell you, Lawrence, this could have gone really bad. Try to give you as much context and say like, you should have switched your language to Chinese because this confuses deepfakes. Obviously, that's now doesn't make sense, but you would have probably realized if somebody is a deepfake or not if you switch to Chinese. And our belief is really that you should rather, instead of increasing the time that people spend with security, limit it, but make it more relevant. And this is what we do with the Spotify playlist. And the next step, and this is the vision we are working currently on, is that we really have this, what we sometimes call a data flywheel. So like our customers or SOCs or threat intelligence experts, they all basically send us all the attacks they are seeing in the market. And not only email, but really this voice phishing, deepfake, the crazy stuff. And what we do, we replicate these attacks. And ideally, these are replicated automatically. And then they're also categorized. So for example, this attack is relevant for someone working in HR, using the system Workday in Slovakia. And then we know which of the playlists does these attack need to go. And if it's a really urgent attack, because you can, target sysadmins, then we need to send it out very quickly. I think this flywheel of basically having real attacks in real time, basically, real time it's difficult, but ideally we see an attack and we can bring it to all other users who are vulnerable to this proactively. And that, I think, is the best type of awareness in a simulation setting.
Yeah, it's like real-time awareness. You see what's happening.
Exactly.
And that you get from threat intel partners, for instance, that they showcase you. And you also, the more companies you work with, the more data you probably gather. Yeah. So the model gets only better.
Exactly. So we can even, we are probably that far by next year that we can even predict before we have an attack, and we can predict basically who's gonna, not who or which groups are gonna fall for it. And I think this helps. This is information that's useful. This is also information that you can use to benchmark against other companies. There are a lot of things that you can do, but we don't believe that there should be an awareness responsible sitting somewhere and having to create attacks for 100,000 users and making up like 5 simulations that they find in a blog or that they think are nice. But we rather think this should be an automatic process. And cybersecurity awareness professionals should rather focus on really foster the cybersecurity culture or what we call the swarm intelligence. Because I think, look at all the low-risk people. Let's say you have 100,000 people again, probably 85,000 don't really have critical access, or we would categorize them as low risk from an IT security perspective. They can still start an attack. So it's important that they have a basic awareness level. But basically, the best thing that you can get these people to do is be your extended sensors. So like awareness people still track click rate or something. Click rate, that's in my opinion, a very stupid KPI to track, because if you make the simulations more difficult, the click rate will increase. If you make it super easy to spot and say like, hi, I'm a phishing email, then of course nobody will click. Probably still people will click. But we believe, how many people in your workforce have reported one attack at least? How many are frequent reporters, maybe reported 5 attacks? And most importantly, what is your time to first report? So even if it's a national holiday in the Netherlands and nobody's working and you're being attacked, how long does it take from first arrival of one of these attack types to it landing in your SOC or somebody from your cybersec team knowing that you're being targeted. Because if you reduce this time, then of course that gives your cybersecurity time more time to react, right? And then or reduces the damage in case something happens. So I think this is more the approach that we are taking. And deepfake is just to round it off. The whole basically, I mean, everyone knows about phishing emails, but all the other channels, WhatsApp, Telegram, video conference attacks, also multi-channel ones. Somebody texts you on LinkedIn and says, like, I'm interested in being in your podcast. And then at the same time, you receive an email from this guy. This multi-channel approach creates false trust. All of these kind of more advanced social engineering scams, they can now be automated. And also, so can be the simulations of them. Yeah.
It's very interesting. Yeah,
it's super interesting.
I'm mind blown. Basically, for two reasons. One, that you've been able to pull this off in such a quick time, because I think you cover a lot of facets. But also, what you said in the beginning is a phishing campaign with a little bit of OSINT information.
Yeah,
makes such a difference. So if you do your attack slightly smarter than what others might be doing, the chance of you succeeding as a bad person are so much higher. And that's basically what you're now also trying to prevent. Yeah. So the standardized phishing, I think everybody that has a bit of IT or IT security knowledge will detect. But the additional layer, and also now knowing that it's more voice-based or video-based, the whole game is changing. That's super relevant.
Maybe I can give you one more example. So I think it's very illustrative if you think about a typical HR scam, right? It's a how do you say, an initial application that I send to again your company. You can assume that any attacker who sends you a fake CV for some open position does this with the correct job opening that is currently on your website for your location. And obviously, this is, I mean, you can ask any LLM what are the open jobs of, for example, Shell, right? Or for Rotterdam or something in this area. And then this is a simple automation possibility. And then you can include that, of course, hackers or attackers do know about. And that makes it much more context relevant or contextual relevant for the HR person reviewing this. But of course, if you see front desk office worker or something, then this will probably not have that fit. But if it's a position you're currently searching for, chances are higher. So I mean, this is a really basic example. That you can go much deeper in basically events you're attending. Things are happening. I mean, also like World Cups, Olympic Games, all of them, Christmas parties, they offer perfect occasions to catch people.
We're recording in the end of December, so this is it's called the holiday season. Can we expect a lot of nasty presents this time of year?
One more attack I can tell about. If you don't like it, you can cut it out. It's targeting salespeople right now. There's something. Have you heard of a ClickFix attack?
No.
Okay, ClickFix is in some way genius because ClickFix will basically get the victim to execute the code in a PowerShell or a terminal. So how does it normally work? So like the first ClickFix attacks were with fake captchas. You would be you get a phishing mail, like some customer signed a DocuSign with you, right? For a salesperson, that's emotional high already. And then you get to that fake DocuSign page. But then there's like a captcha, or you need to verify that you're a human. Yeah, no worries. I click on it. But while clicking, something copies in your clipboard. And if you're a non-technical person, you might not know. And then basically shows this message is like, something is wrong with your DocuSign version or with your browser version. Can you quickly go to your terminal, or it will detect whether you're on a Mac or Windows or whatever. And then it will just give you 3 basic instructions. Open the terminal, press copy V, Command V. And then just click enter. Like it's every technical person would realize this is stupid. You shouldn't be doing this. But then a salesperson who expects this order form, right? They just do that, and in the clipboard there's some kind of malicious code. It will be so long anyway that the people don't get it, and they just copy paste that in and execute it. So this is spot on for the attacker because they don't need to do it anymore. They really get the person to do it for them, and they also don't. And then afterwards, the site breaks or something. But with the DocuSign now in the end of the year, this is really tough because I mean, nothing against salespeople. I have very much empathy for them, but they are also very easy targets. Yeah.
Yeah. And this may be a nice bridge. I'm also curious, how do you scale so fast? So there are a lot of awareness platforms out there. And before we started the podcast, you also explained that you have a favorite song in the company.
Yes.
Some people love it.
Yeah.
It's a very famous one. Can you go deeper on that?
Lawrence, of course I can. We basically, our sales school came from Celonis, and back then the now Chief Revenue Officer of Salesforce, Miguel Milano, again, forgive me, Miguel, but name like a porn star, came in and really scaled Celonis from 50 to 500 million in like 3 years. And many of his tactics, we basically, they worked, obviously, but we think we can copy to any kind of software business. And one of them is really do a very structured but high-paced outbound with young, ambitious people. And one thing that you are referring to now is one thing that we do. We, of course, need to get the word out. We are not famous yet, so we need to do a lot of cold calling as an outbound, right? And we need to reach the people in the right moment. So what we normally do on a now only monthly basis is the cold calling Champions League. And we get basically all salespeople together, and even more. I always participate too. And then we draw teams. It's a really we have this Champions League slide where we draw the teams together and so on. And then basically the whole thing starts and with points. But in the beginning, we always get together and we stand. It's a little bit like a sect. And
you sing the anthem together?
Yes, we sing the Champions League anthem together.
I always dreamt of singing the anthem.
It's really like...
I support a shitty football club in the Netherlands.
Yeah,
so
okay. I support a shitty one in Germany too, so I know.
It's never going to happen.
Yeah. No, but and it's really, and this moment already is so embarrassing because we are standing in the large co-working office. All the others think what the hell is Revel8 doing there? And but afterwards, cold calling is
and then it's team against team. So there's a winner at the end.
Yeah, so basically, we really replicate a football game here. So everyone then goes off in their own little rooms. You do the calling, but you always do it together so that you can coach yourself a little bit. And also, if you get a rejection which normally happens with cold calling because nobody expects your call. But basically, after 45 minutes of a first half, we all meet together, share some funny stories. Second half goes again, and then there's the overtime. So that's basically the third hour. And in this third hour, all of the meetings that we book basically count double. And it's also because this is normally between 11 and 12, so the time right before lunch. And really, the meetings only count if they are really booked in until 12. So, of course, that creates a sense of urgency. And then the winners are being basically announced and celebrated during lunch. It's fun.
Yeah. No, I think for a lot of people, cold calling is scary. But if you do it in such a joyful camaraderie way, I think it really helps. You get people over their fear, most likely. And
to be honest, we have, for example, we've won recently a large, very famous Italian car manufacturer. And we won this because our
red cars.
I can't tell you the color, and it's not the red car one. But this whole thing just established because our Italian, not even a sales guy, Italian founders associate, participated in the Champions League and called them. And he couldn't call in Germany because he doesn't speak German. So he just called them, and now we have 3 Italian customers, and they are all quite famous logos. We can't announce them yet. They still need to be 1 year through with our software to be happy references, but it's crazy. Yeah, it comes from sometimes calling is much better than
much faster, especially. Yeah, but you need to have a good market fit. So
it needs to be relevant.
Out of curiosity, how would you conduct a call? So say you call somebody that you know who to call within an organization, but what's then really short your pitch? What's the angle here?
I mean, normally I would start with and say hi Lawrence, would you throw your phone out the window if I tell you this is a cold call? Normally, some people do. But and then basically say
I need to call back later.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good one.
Yeah, but then basically, I mean, we have different angles, but the next one would usually be yes. So we are a company focused on deepfake awareness, relatively new space. I'm assuming your team doesn't have this capability yet, would this be worth 30 minutes? I don't want to steal your time right now. And sometimes they say like, oh no, we already have a solution. And then you can always say like, can I ask a cheeky question? Is your solution that great that you don't consider other options and so on? So like there are a couple of twists that you can do. There's a really nice cold caller I can recommend to all people listening. It's this guy's it's an Italian, Giulio Segantini.
Yeah,
I don't know if you know him.
Yeah. He's always, he does super funny things.
Yes, but to be honest, I think many of his things are quite cool and also resonant.
He also calls wearing a Santa Claus outfit.
I know.
Yeah. It's amazing.
That we don't do yet, but no. But I think, for example, so like it's relevant, and we realized our word deepfake awareness, either it resonates or not. But if we say something cybersecurity, AI, everyone says that. So it needs to be one buzzword. And then the second thing is also that if you have a good reason to call. So Lawrence, I'm calling you because we are working with XYZ already, and I'm talking to the CISO there. So I'm assuming this is relevant to you as well.
Yeah.
Something like a little bit shorter, probably.
Yeah. And out of a Champions League match, so you do it once a month, how many meetings are booked at the end of the day?
Differs completely. We've had Champions League with like 20 meetings booked. We also had we dry Champions League with maybe only 9, 10, something.
Yeah. No, but it works. Yeah. But it's fascinating. You have on board the guy from Salesforce that came into Celonis that really grew the company, and you have an amazing CTO that's probably from a tech perspective and development perspective super quick. 'Cause the sales is impressive, but probably the way that you've been building up this whole tool that's super impressive.
Yeah, but Lawrence is always. I mean, it can always be better. It can always be worse, right? I mean, for German, it normally can always be worse, but it always can be better. No, we are super happy. I think also there's an advantage that we established for example a little brand called the Anti-Phishing Club. And
also Mario.
He's a new signature of the club. But no, I think also people like that it's a European-based startup again, not one of the American sales guys. I think they also appreciate that we still have startup vibes. Things do go wrong, also probably more often than in an established firm, but with good customer service and a very customer-oriented mindset. I think you can win a lot of customer, even if you have a screw up. I can tell you with one large insurance firm where we did the call center voice phishing. One of the basically sometimes our training bot doesn't kick in early enough, right, to prevent the actual damage or the actual non-protective actions that we want to trigger or that we want to train on to happen. And they actually reset the password of the COO. And then, of course, this was an incident because the COO just received an email, your password has successfully been changed and couldn't log in anymore. And so obviously, I mean, for us, this was perfect, or this was really good awareness. And I think also this shows that the product is working. But of course, on our champion side, this was not so nice because there was an escalation internally, and because not everyone knew that we were doing this. At this phase, you also need to have a very customer service mindset and basically be able to support your champions in this regard, offer solutions. Yeah, and that also sometimes requires almost a 24/7 availability on that. And I think that we really have a good team that has that mindset, and that makes it sometimes also easier to win some logos. But to add one more thing, I think while we have a really nice team and they are pushing each other in the Champions League and so on, but also working, I think also very crucial is that we have advice from cybersecurity professionals. There are a couple of ones that have been in your podcast before, right? Madi, Rogier, and so on, who are not only giving us advice on the product, where we should head, but also giving us advice on who should we contact, making intros, and so on, and then basically publicly introducing us to their circle of CISOs. I think we can always we are also a nice solution to look at because everyone can relate to it. It's not too technical from a user perspective. But of course, without these introduction, it would also be hard to get to these large firms.
Yeah. No, indeed, the people you mentioned, that they're great guys, and I also know that they pick their advisory roles or their angel investments very carefully. So when they
hopefully, Lawrence.
No, I know for a fact. So they already told me I need to try to get you on the show. So I'm very happy. And you mentioned earlier, just as a side note, that sort of the bigger mission or the BHAG, something in 3 years, you want to have 10 million human firewalls. So does it mean by then you want to have 10 million subscribers or users?
Yeah, because ultimately what we are thinking about this flywheel that I explained earlier, that we basically bring all the attacks that are happening in real time to the relevant users, right, proactively. And the larger our user base grows, the more impact, the more protection we can also achieve. And I mean, ultimately, because normally companies are very silent or about the cybersecurity stack they're using, but actually we want to be the other way. So like if a customer in 3 years uses us, then we want to be so good that the customer says, hey, we're using Revel8. It's almost like the attention dog on the fence, right? That then the cyber attackers are like, okay, no, shit, they are trained on the latest attacks. I need to think about something new. Let's rather go to other company. That is so the ideal scenario.
That they use that stamp on their website.
Our workforce is Revel8 trained. Yeah.
It's the first time I hear this, but it actually makes sense. If you go to a poshy neighborhood, there you also see like this big sign on the fence, usually like protected by.
Exactly.
So stay out because we have good security.
Yeah, exactly.
And Julius, before I forget, I was curious about the name Revel8.ai. I think the AI makes perfect sense. But the Revel signed with an 8, Revel8. How did that come about?
Lawrence, this is now funny that you ask. It's a little bit of an embarrassing story how we arrived at the name, because when we started off, we thought Human Shield would be a nice name. But Human Shield actually, because Tom and I both were not at the military, Human Shield is actually the military tactic to put civilians in the front and use them as a shield. And of course, and then there was actually pretty much a couple of days after we came up with this name, the Hamas and Israel conflict started. And then if you would have had a hashtag Human Shield, you saw really violent and damaging videos. So this is obviously something that we didn't want to be associated with or also and so on. So we didn't have a better name. Tom and I are not the most creative ones. So we just called it Company Shield. But that's actually not really reflecting our mission. So in the beginning of this year, we did like a little with a team, a little bit of a name search. The idea actually came from one of our early founders associates. So basically, Revel8 is a mixture of 3 things. So basically, Revel8, right? So like elevate. Then you have Reveal, which is also part of that, reveal cyber attacks. But then the most important thing is layer 8, right? So layer 8 in the ISO-OSI model of computer networking is the unofficial 8th layer. So, right, if you say it's a layer 8 problem, then that's basically nice jargon for the user is too stupid. There's also PEPCAC problem exists between computer and keyboard, but that's not, we couldn't call our company like that. So then we mixed it all together and had Revel8 came out of this. And in the beginning, I was a little bit skeptical because it sounded new, but now all people have adjusted. Some Germans say Revel8, but that
still works. In the Netherlands, we would say the same.
Yeah.
No, I like it. Yeah, it's catchy because it's very different. And as I said before, also the way you approach awareness and that you have the deepfake and also the technology behind it, I'm very impressed. Now there's a big investment that came in, so that also means that you will need to scale and grow the revenue and also grow the team for people that probably got excited about this conversation. If they're listening and they feel like, hey, I might want to join that company, what type of people do you want to attract, and what's the DNA that you're searching for?
That's a very good question, Lawrence. So I think real big expertise is always welcome, but I think there are a couple of other core characteristics which we are searching. So I think one is really you need to have this certain, or you need to be able to excite yourself and develop an enthusiasm for the topic. And I think everybody loves or could love criminality. We are watching movies and reading books and so on anyways. So I think that is easy to get excited about, but you also need to then get excited about it. And the second thing is really the willingness to learn and just work in a team. So I think many of the guys actually come from some kind of team sports or like team building thing, like an orchestra. Because I mean, with a small group of people, you never know if you're really going to do that task that you were hired for, or other things come up. And I think that's something that I think is really cool in the team. Also, the way that they interact. I think these are the only two things, and I think the rest you will learn along the way. Yeah. And
but it's now you need to scale. So is it more bringing in commercial people that work for different countries? Because you mentioned the Italian sports cars.
Yes.
Like then you need an Italian calling an Italian, I assume.
So like overall, we are always looking for good software engineers, and I think it's particular now that AI takes a lot of the jobs. I think really, really good ones can learn a lot from Robert, who's probably the most seller of our founding team. Or we are on this second side always looking for generalists who are really interested in the threat intelligence space, right? The whole building, automating the building of simulations. And then whoever basically resonated with the cold calling Champions League, we will need a lot of salespeople if this grows. And we also will need salespeople speaking multiple languages, potentially the US at one point, and so on. These are things happening in the next years, for sure. If they don't stop, nobody stops us before, then yeah. So I think based on these three areas, we are constantly looking for someone. So if someone is listening and feels like they want to be part of this or check this out, then feel free to shoot something over, even if the fitting job rec is not on the website. Yeah.
Great. And I heard that now you're in Berlin, but since you hired also a lot of people from Celonis, because you know they're good people over there that. They were established in Munich, right? And you're also moving offices to Munich now.
Yes. So actually, beginning of February, and we also believe in the very central place for all of us. But we are quite happy because we are finally getting an identity, moving into an office. It's the old Flixbus office in Munich.
Cool. Yeah.
So also a little bit of patina, and we are just really happy that we can now also create that own identity and. Scale a little bit. Let's see how long this office fits. Yeah,
nice. I'm very curious to follow the journey.
You should visit.
Yeah, one day I can take a Flixbus.
Yeah.
No, I'm not a huge fan of Flixbus, but it's for another day. Wrapping up, Julius, already the last question that we ask all our guests. That's if you can send one signal message to all the CISOs across the world. What would this message be?
What I would recommend to all CISOs listening is that you're spending money on awareness anyways, and you might as well spend it on modern day awareness, because right now the actual threats are not your Prince of Nigeria phishing mails, but all the deepfake technologies, different channels, and so on. So you might as well spend the money wisely on also a modern solution.
Lovely. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay. Julius, it was a super nice conversation. Yeah. I come out way more energetic than we started. So
that's good.
A lot to think about. So I really enjoyed it, and maybe we see each other in Munich in a couple of years to do another session.
Hopefully not. No, thank you very much also for having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Stay safe, stay curious, and until next time in the district.